Let's kick up the meeting. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining the last outreach committee meeting of the year on December 11th. We are a community focused on open source license projects, securing data in news, and accelerating the adoption of confidential computing through open collaboration. Here, we welcome from members, and also every project meeting our criteria is welcome. We are a transparent and collaborative community. We as members, contributors, and leaders pledge to make participation in our community a harassment-free experience for everyone. And Confidential Computing Consortium follows antitrust policy. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to Linux Foundation PMs on this call. And I have these several items to talk through today. So we'll go over some of the, we'll cover IDC white paper. We'll cover some events and also review year-end insight of the marketing, and last, any calls for content.
We do not have quorum in this meeting, and therefore we would adopt the minutes of the previous meeting without a vote. I have received no corrections or updates from the minutes that has been sent out.
Does anybody else have on this call have any questions from the last meeting? We skipped last one, so it's been a month. But feel free to raise up if you have any comments or concern from the last meeting. Okay. If not, we can just move on, right? We don't have to get a
Yes,
motion.
No, we can move on. Sorry, did the slides move on? No, we don't need a motion. It's automatically approved.
Okay, great. All right, so IDC white paper proposals. So we have talked about this in our calls a couple times, and y'all heard from me several things and very high level summary of the report. But I thought it would be great to hear from our IDC representatives, which Trang and Meg joined the call today to walk us through just a brief overview of the proposal and answer any questions you might have. So Trang and Meg, I have this slide, and also next slide we have the topics and timeline captured, but feel free to use your own, or if you want us to open up that proposal PDF, we can do that as well. Just let us know. The floor is all yours.
Great, I'll jump in. Thank you, and nice to meet everybody. So I would be the project manager of this project, working with subject matter experts that would be pulling together custom primary research, which is what this slide is about, that would get wrapped into a custom white paper written by IDC. And as you can see here, there are two different options of the size of the survey, just depending on what scope is desired, you know, your budget and interest and focus of the different countries. As you'll see when we get to the next slide about the schedule, we do this will be an iterative process working with the CCC team. So we would be collaboratively working together to design the survey, making sure that it's hitting all of the topics that you want covered, just making sure that we can get it all done within a 15-minute survey, and then the survey would go to field, it would come back, we would then again iterate and collaborate to determine what sort of the arc of the story for the white paper, and pull it all together to then have, there'd be review cycles and delivery. In terms of the survey, we felt that really to get high quality responses, we would need to do this with a computer-aided telephone interviews rather than just a simple web survey, because we really want to make sure that we're getting to the right folks and that they're understanding the nuances of any questions that we put into the survey. As you can see that we've set this to be targeting just a mix of industries, but we can narrow that if we want. A mix of company size, again, we can narrow that. We probably want to throw out anything that's too small. So we suggest a minimum of 50 employees, but we can raise that minimum if we want. And that we would conduct this in local language. So, it would be in German in Germany and so forth. Let me pause. Any questions so far? Oh, there's a hand up.
Yeah, hi. Are the participants paid for completing the survey?
Usually there's a sort of nominal incentive, like entering into a drawing for a gift certificate or something like that. It's not a significant payout.
Okay. Just looking at 30 to 15 minutes, 30 to 40 questions. There's a lot. Is the success rate, is the bail rate high on something like that for something where the participant is not being compensated?
So we do this type of research all the time, and we're able to get to this type of respondent. So the number of responses here are guaranteed. It's not that we contact 600 and however many answer is fine. We will get the 600 responses. And typically we can use some panels, we can use different targets to get to the right folks. But in order to develop this proposal, we checked with our survey experts and ensured that we had high confidence in getting all of these completes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Great. Other questions on the survey scope? Okay. Maybe move on to the next slide then, please. Yeah, so that has the survey topics. So that was, and I think that the green box at the top is an important one, that we will collaborate to determine the survey topics and create the survey instrument. This list was just a list from some of the topics that were mentioned in our scoping call, but it can evolve as necessary, just so long as it's the same area of interest, so that we're getting all of the questions can be asked of the same audience. But that is, you can see the schedule at the bottom of the screen. We're allowing 2 weeks to iterate on developing that survey. So the way that would work is that the IDC team would first come up with a draft based on the kickoff call. So we would have a kickoff call where we discuss, all of the desired topics and sort of prioritize them. Then the IDC team would go off and draft a survey and send that over to the CCC team for review, and then iterate as needed to then get into programming and translating and so forth. Any questions on that? Does supply chain in this case mean specifically the software supply chain, or does this apply broadly to material supply chain? I would need to check my notes, and Rachel, I don't know if you recall what the supply chain topic was relating to.
Yeah, I don't think that we have to clarify it on this call, but it would help to specify the questions. So that's just the one thing I had here where I had a question. Otherwise, I think this looks really good.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I think that was I just pulled up my notes, and it said that was supply chain security was the desired topic, but it's just a matter of covering all the desired topics. So that would go into our kickoff call discussion and then into the survey draft.
Yeah, that's correct. And Saul, and then if you recall for the top prioritized use cases for Messenger Guide, and supply chain security was one of the topics. So love to see that being covered.
Okay, great. I'll make sure that that's covered. And then do you have any other slides in your deck here? Or is this the end of the IDC content?
I trust that's the last slide. I won't look.
Yep. Quick question. Did we have the type of, can you go back to the previous slide real quick? Do we have, okay, so there is a decision makers, influencers. So target respondents would be and manager and above. So do you have kind of a criteria where you target, level of their kind of a title?
Yes. So as part of the survey, we would collaborate on creating the survey screener that would make sure that we're getting to the right respondents. Anybody who doesn't pass our survey screener questions gets stumped and not counted as a response. So our target respondents are decision maker or influencer for securing sensitive data and compute workloads, knowledgeable in data security or privacy or regulatory compliance, and then manager and above, meaning their title is manager or above that.
Okay. Yeah, just want to make sure that the answers that we're capturing is, worth noting and capturing into a report.
Yes.
And yeah, capture as many decision makers or senior folks as possible.
And also buyers, right? Because that's who we're targeting, the people that can actually buy.
Yeah, so when we say decision maker, we mean a decision maker about a purchasing decision.
Awesome.
Great. Any questions? Any last questions from the team here? What's going to happen next is we will discuss this, for any other questions internally need to be answered. And then we're gonna start the process. So, we will start with the signing the proposal or the contract, and then from then on, IDC team will coordinate the kickoff call, and we will kind of have to move fast if we want to start in the new year right away. So since we have the Meg and Chang here, if anyone has any last thoughts or questions, this is the time. Do you all feel like this will capture what your company desire to get from this white paper?
I think from the Intel perspective, I think we're good.
Any other companies?
It looks like Leonardo was trying to say something, but was on mute.
Oh.
And Julian's giving the thumbs up. And a thumbs up. Excellent.
I previously provided feedback, and maybe this can be considered for future iteration. So one country that we would like to see is India.
Okay, and would you want to swap sample from one of the other countries to India, or would you want India added?
That would be based on group decision. If there's room and what other people think, and that's our proposal. to add India or swap it with some other country, and but would definitely love to see India to be there, and if it's not for the scope, and then certainly for its future iteration.
So
So
in order
I have a
to, oh,
question.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Kate. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to mention, so these are the number of countries that we settled on based on our, pricing options. So if we were to accommodate India, for example, either we want to swap it with one country, we have to drop one country and add them in. Otherwise, adding India at this stage is not going to be an option. Just wanted to say that.
did we decide, sorry, help the elderly out here, Kate. Did we opt for option 1 or option 2?
I'm looking at option 1.
Okay. And
But we
added
can do
India.
option 2 as well.
It's
so that we
okay.
can
No.
fit India.
Here's what I'm thinking is that you have 2 markets. You have a couple pairs of markets that are probably going to be very similar. US and Canada, probably very similar. France and Germany, likely to be similar. Because they're both in EU, both subject to many of the same regulations, culturally different, but you're probably going to get similar findings. India is going to be much different than any other respondent country among those 6. So it would be interesting. I don't think you're going to get anything else like it. If you swapped out, say, France or Canada for India.
I agree with that. I mean, I will definitely support, especially US and Canada, I think very similar, right?
Yep, I agree with the Canada sentiment. I don't know, France and Germany, I feel like it has a slightly different type of like adoption made and regulatory kind of a landscape, I feel like. I mean, it's all EU, but how that is being adapted, I would be curious to see what we get from France versus Germany. That's just my comment. But Laura,
I had a question. So I haven't seen really any success stories for confidential computing come out of the India region, and that would raise a concern for 50 employees and above. I would want it to be for enterprise customers that are large, like a government type of customer. So that would change the screening criterion significantly, in my opinion. Because I think there's a direct correlation there, right? There's a lot more India companies that would fit this criterion, and I'd be worried about it being skewed one way or the other, though I do think there's a lot of value in having India come to the table and give us their feedback. But again, I haven't seen any customers really go big with confidential computing. It's because it's, costly, right, from an engineering perspective. So I do see the value in it. I just am curious if it would skew our overall results. That's all.
Yeah, larger organizations would be better. I do think a marginal decision between, hey, do I want to see the difference between the US and Canada, or the difference between a US, Europe, China, and what's the mood in India versus other places, even if the India sample is maybe mid-sized businesses. I think I'd rather take the India insight than the Canadian or the French insight.
Yeah,
No
that's
offense
totally
to
fair.
Canada.
That's totally
No
fair.
offense to France or Canada.
No, yeah, no offense to Canada, but they buy like we do, right? They're a consumer.
So
The
we could
consumption
potentially
market.
move some sample around, add India, and if you want to keep at the 600, we could just sort of take some from Canada and take some from, a little bit from France and Germany and so forth to reallocate.
Yeah, reallocating. I understand last time we also discussed like there's a possibility to reallocate, and maybe exactly what you said, and maybe you can reallocate some of those points from one of those countries or some of these countries to India.
So I can check in just to make sure that's feasible. I know that the bottom line there was a selection of countries and distribution of sample size can be adjusted through mutual agreement. So what I can do is I can see what's feasible to do within the same price point. Question about the size of the company. So do we want to set a different minimum size than 50 employees? Or would that vary by country? Or would it be if we just have a minimum size, but really focus on the needing a means of securing sensitive data and compute workloads? Is that really the threshold? Like, what would be the right threshold for getting to the right people? Is size an important factor, or is it the type of sensitive data they have?
I think it's for me, and this is Laura from NVIDIA. For me, it's size, right? Because if you have 50 employees, like I have family members that have businesses that are that big, they can't invest in this type of technology. So their buying decisions are not necessarily going to be like the buying decision of someone that has a few hundred. And if I specifically am interested in the banks, right? Highly regulated, financial institutions, financial sector, insurance, healthcare, government. Those are my verticals that I'm interested in hearing back from, and those are the verticals I keep seeing adoption in, and lots of proof points come out of. So banks don't just have 50 employees, right? Or health healthcare companies don't just have 50 employees. No one in those verticals has just 50. So that's a little bit of why the 50 I'm rethinking that. But again, I'll defer to the greater team. I'm just seeing it from my vertical perspective, and this actual survey giving me insights into allowing me to market more effectively to those audiences. If it's a company of 50, that's not who my target market is.
Would 500 be the right number, or what would be the right number?
Well, here's one log to throw on the fire here for this, because I agree with Laura that I think we're probably going to see things split out on two camps. You're going to see the very large organizations that have extensive security and compliance needs and extensive IT infrastructure to deal with those needs. So those are going to be the banks and the insurance companies and government agencies and things like that. You're also going to have this kind of a pack of startup-y, innovative companies that are doing things like various blockchain, crypto, Web3 activities that are going to be in those smaller categories, and some of them are the more aggressive adopters because they're building the entire business around privacy and confidentiality. So I think if we raise the ceiling all the way to 100 or 500, we may be leaving that cohort behind. But I am sympathetic to Laura's point, where most of the wins that we get that require are sophisticated, big investments are coming out of those larger organizations. But I am reluctant to bypass those innovators.
Okay.
I don't know. Anybody have thoughts
Well,
on
I
that?
think it's mentioned here in the proposal that we can set quotas for selected industries, right? So maybe we can make sure that, regulated industries, governments are addressed, and then, leave some space for smaller companies. Because if we set quotas for the big industries, we certainly will address them, right? With, much higher number of employees, of course.
Meg, is there a screening? Can we, as part of the screening instrument, can we do something like, hey, if you're 500, if you're working in an organization that's 500 more, you're in. You're in unless otherwise disqualified.
Mhm.
If you're in a organization of 50 or more, can there be a follow-up question that asks, what business are you in, and how central is security and privacy to the mission of the business? And
Absolutely.
And if they say, yeah, we are, this is critical. It's we don't have a business without security and privacy technology, then they can proceed. If they say, it's catch as catch can on those things, and maybe then they're screened out.
Yes. We can have sort of, as you're saying, two different camps of either they need to fit this criteria or they need to fit that criteria. It sounds like really what we want is the critical factor is that they have the need for the security and privacy to, as you said, central to the business. And then the size, maybe we set some quotas, but so we don't get all small or all large, but that sounds like you could have different profiles. So we can work all of that through in the development of the screener.
Okay. Laura, how does that sit with you?
Perfectly. I love it. Thank you.
Great. So for action item, I think I need to come back with a suggestion about how to include India. I can put a little bit more information about the details of how the screener works. Anything else I should do?
Yeah. I think that's good for now. And then once that's done and we can quickly discuss, so we can quickly sign it off and then we can move on with the project. But this was very, very helpful. Thank you everyone for your input.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And thank you, Meg and Trang, for joining.
Right.
And
Thanks.
we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you so
So-
much.
I guess we'll drop. You
you.
guys will continue. So thank you.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you. All right. We kind of burned through some more time than I allocated. So we can just quickly move on to the next topic. So events, I have a lot of things to talk about. But before we participated in the KubeCon North America a couple weeks ago, or already a month ago. The list on the left is leads that Mike Barcel collected from the event. I believe it's from personally, not through our lead capture at the booth. I think those lists are handled separately, and we already integrated them into the newsletter subscriber list, I believe. But quick highlight on the right side, they did have 9,195 attended, and because of KubeCon hosts in different region, of course, this has primarily attended by the North America attendees, but the most represented countries are here on the middle section, so you can reference. But generally, their CFP, call for proposal submissions were 1,937, and their acceptance rate was 11%. So a lot of people are very, very interested in submitting these events, and with the diversity aspect, and and then when you look at the top 3 job function, it's developers and architect and system admins. So some of these insights to really keep in mind for next year's planning, if and when makes sense to target these audience group or type of content that we're going after. So I just wanted to include that in here. And then if you go to the next slide, and there's our crew. Sal, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll speak to this. I think our activation here was pretty good. My goal here, I mean, we're in a pretty interesting place because a lot of people are doing consumer profiling for scalable scalable compute. But those who had a sincere interest in CC came and sought us out. We offered live demos and live use case reviews, which I think was incredibly strong. And I'm going to get those out as digital recordings in the new year again. Our booth leads, again, I think represents that this is an overlapping audience with us. So if they weren't doing active procurement on CC, they weren't going for leads. However, those 30 leads are very, very strong. I did give a talk on the final day, and it was well attended by those that have a strong interest in this. So we are absolutely hitting our core audience at QCon. I did give out sort of bingo cards that had QR links to everything that we had. One thing that I want to say there is that the most reviewed link from that, I do believe, was the use cases report. People really liked the use cases report, and the only thing that I was often getting from them was that they want to see more, which I'm happy to see that the outreach is going to be working towards. Go ahead, Mike. Got a question?
Hey, so quick, just question on security conferences and QR codes. Do people
Yes.
go for the I mean, I always think real hard before hitting a QR code. Is that?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it absolutely depends on the conference. Like, I am not seeing QR codes at security conferences, but I am seeing them at the open source conferences, and I didn't have anyone that had a sort of bad reaction to it. I personally am someone who advocates against them typically. But in this case, I do believe that it was, I didn't have anyone highlight it. This is, I do want to say, like, things like RSA, don't put QRs in it. It would be a bad look.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
So one of the tactics that we did at like DEF CON and Black Hat, for example, we actually have like a bit.ly links that are relatively very short. So we spell it out so that people can just access it. But also it's always good to just spell out. But if it gets really long, that is kind of missing the point. But that's one of the tactics. Okay. That's it from the QCon team. Thank you so much for executing this so nicely. And I know y'all worked on the video content as well to capture for our YouTube intro page. And I know, I would love to gather more videos from different events in at least a Q1 event or Q2 so that we can have a more comprehensive video clips. Okay, FOSDEM. So do you have anything?
So FOSDEM, right now, we are waiting on feedback from the CFPs. We have chosen a location and we have a budget in place, and we are following up on just paying the invoice for the happy hour now. So by the next outreach session that we have, I should be able to report, hopefully, who's going to be attending that with talks, which is going to be really good to see. But we did get a lot of submissions. So I'm curious to see, because we're doubling the amount of speaking opportunities in this dev room this year. There's going to be twice as much CC at FOSDEM. Very cool.
And I know that one of our, I think, community members involved in the attestation dev room. Do we have any connection into that?
So I don't know if Saul want to talk about that, but I mean, Thomas Fossati from Lenaro is one of the folks hosting the attestation dev room. They already, I mean, the call for papers is closed as well, and they already announced who is going to speak there in the beginning of this week. I don't know from the top of my mind, but there will also be a meetup on Friday evening that they are organizing to discuss attestation standards related topics. And I know that there were many submissions. I mean, if I recall correctly, Thomas said that they had even more submissions than the kernel dev room. So definitely a hot topic.
Okay, great that Thomas is part of that. Yeah, would love to collaborate if we're makes sense, but also to hear how that attestation dev room did after the show. So yeah, keep us posted after. All right, we can move on. I'm a little bit of time crunch. So OC3 deadline is in 2 days. So if your company hasn't submitted anything yet, feel free to do that within these 2 days. And OC3 it will be hybrid. It's virtual and on-site in Berlin on March 17th. Next. RSA. So this will be, we have finally signed all the contracts that is needed for our association partner contract and as well as the booth sponsor contract. So some things that is coming up. So with our partnership, we get to publish a blog on RSA website. And last time when we talked, we brought up we want to cover confidential AI and confidential container topic. And we do want to identify who the author would be. So generally, why this matters, so I would love to have this author to be published as the author on the website. But once this author will draft the draft, this committee will have an opportunity to make a comment or give feedback so that it's represented, but we will add the author's name as well as on behalf of the CCC. So that's why I would love someone to actually take the lead and a volunteer to be the author. So if you're interested, if you're want to nominate anybody from your company, please email it to me and Rachel sometime in December, so that we can craft this in the new year. The next thing that's coming up is the booth collaboration. So similar to what we did at the KubeCon and the RSA this year, we will have the sign up form shared in the new year. So the opportunity is to submit any kind of a digital content to be showcased on the monitor at the booth. Even if you're not going to be on site, you can submit your content there to showcase. But also there is an opportunity to have the booth coverage, but also the demo and mini talk zone separately. So we expanded our space so that we can accommodate demo and talks. So that's the options to sign up for. So that's to come up in the new year in January. So just look out for that. The next. So there are 2 events that I'm proposing to the group here. So first one is AI Infra Summit. So AI Infra Summit is hosted by the same organizer of the PET Summit. And next year, the organizer won't be doing PET Summit, and they are going to put all of their events effort into this one event, which is the AI Infra Summit. And they have rebranded to AI Infra Summit from AI Hardware and Edge Summit. And we have a really great relationship with them. And what's great about them is when they create this sponsorship package, it's not just one size fits all kind of a thing. They actually create the custom package for what makes sense for the sponsor. So these are on the bottom half is what they suggested and proposed to us. So quickly walk you through. So there is a virtual moderated roundtable session. So it's going to be all virtual, but throughout the year, it's not like one day set or anything like that, but throughout the year, we can select different dates and different time for different segments, which is outlined in these 3 different sectors here. But basically, so 8 to 12 DPO CISOs, privacy leads, and head of data to cover. One session could cover financial services, the other one can cover healthcare sector, and the third one is a cross-industry session. So each session, each roundtable session will cost about cost $17K per session. So that's one virtual activity option. The other one is tied to the event. So actually being on site. So AI Infra Summit is there. They over the years they've grown this event, and they have 1,300 on-site attendees and whatnot in the data security and AI space. So their proposal is on top of all the booth and other branded activity, lead a 45 minutes confidential AI panel discussion on the enterprise AI track. And another one is lead a dedicated 60 minutes trustworthy and confidential AI workshop to a 20 to 30 enterprise data audience. So with these two, very, very high level, and then we will have an opportunity to access to their delegate list to handpick from for these kind of a workshop. So I would love to know if at all y'all are interested and think this is a good investment, and if so, which ones? There are very small print here. If over 52,000, we get 10% discount. If over 69,000, we get 15% discount. So meaning if we sponsor the on-site AI Infra Summit 1, we get 10%. If we add one of the session above from the virtual, then we get 15. But general feedback, welcome. And while you all are thinking, you will see in the next slide at the next event that I'm proposing. Next year's kind of the angle that I'm going at is really going highly focused, the highly prioritized in those verticals that the organizations are targeting, and any engagement, any dollar invested that we do needs to yield, tangible outcome. And there are a lot of events that we have participated in this year and next year. My focus, I think, my suggestion is to really focus on the targeted audience approach. So this is one of the activity that came from that thought.
So Kate, under this proposal, the 17K per session would be 17K times 3.
If we were to do all three, but we can just pick healthcare, for example, because the next slide I'm gonna talk about is heavily targeting financial services. So since we're not hitting healthcare, so maybe we could do that in this option type of thing.
Okay.
But generally, are you interested in the AI Infra Summit? Do you think that confidential AI panel discussion and also the confidential AI workshop, do you think that that's helpful for us?
I do have a bit of reluctance to engage, kind of like the same reluctance to like go, spend a lot of money at RSA, because it's such a diverse, large and diverse subject. You're going to get, your ability to get focus on your particular corner of the world is difficult. But this one is, AI, it's AI. It's not huge. It's 1,300 attendees. I guess the only thing I would say is that if you bank on, say, these small sessions, it looks like 8 to 12 attendees, and you fill it out, you fill out with 12, or it's standing room only at 14, that's a pretty decent investment. But boy, if you miss, holy cow, is that a waste of money. If you come in if 4 people show up, your cost per contact is crazy high.
Just keep in mind that it's their organizers' responsibility to fill the seat with our desired audience. So they can guarantee that at least they will have the 8 seats. But for virtual session, 8 people and 12 people are almost too many in this kind of case. But for on-site 20 to 30, like their job is to fill in those seats with our desired audience.
What I like about this one is that it's in the valley, right? And there's a ton of opportunities to get thought leadership there. And I mean, September 9th through 11th is usually, it's right after Labor Day weekend. So I think that more folks would be interested in attending the conference after the holiday. They're already relaxed. They want to go and add value in the world. So as long as the attendance is guaranteed, then yeah, I like this one.
Okay. Someone else had a comment?
Just quick comment. I attended this event this year, and there were a lot of decision makers, and I would definitely say that the general feedback was there are a lot of big name companies and a lot of decision makers for this conference, and also there leaves opportunities for like security topics, especially for computational computing. I think we can get our foot in the door, and by participating, and when that momentum starts picking up.
Thank you. I'm hearing generally it's positive towards this engagement, but what I will do, I'll make sure the participation concern and filling the seat of the qualified audience that we desire. So I will make sure with the organizer those 2 or 3 facts are met, and then we can bring this up to the next call. How about that?
Yeah, I guess if I had to vote for a lean, I'd say if you're going in for either 17 or 34K for the focus sessions, you may as well go in for the 52, and don't put a go for the bigger audience rather than the select few. I think your return has a potential to be very high on the focus sessions, but I think your risk is also really high. I think at 52, 50 for 52K to basically get a larger audience, I think it's probably a better investment.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll gather some more context and information and then report back. Next event is the Open Source and Finance Forum. So this is actually hosted by Finos, which is FinTech in Open Source Foundation, FinTech Open Source Foundation. But this event, when I proposed to the governing board, it was highly engaged, and then we got a lot of buy-in from the governing board folks. So in LF, the Linux Foundation Events is running this event. So we have a great leverage there. But this sponsorship comes with all-day track, having our own computational computing track at this event. They have 800 plus financial services industry attendees, like 90% makeup of that attended in New York City, and it is happening in early Q4. So when I look at the event roadmap in the year, this fits perfectly with the audience and also the time, because a lot of events are heavily in the first half. So with this 60K, we get full track of 6 talks, which will be hosted by us, but people will be submitting the paper through the Finos and or OSFF site, and as well as we can help promote as well. So this is pretty big deal, and I very, very strongly recommend this. This also sponsorship comes with the annual kind of engagement, so it doesn't end on the event day. We can do the dedicated blog posts throughout the year sometime. We can do a webinar with the open source finance services community. So there are a lot of good options here to take advantage of. So I would like to get a motion from the group if we can move forward with this. Or any question, concern, real quick.
No, I like this one as well.
I'd like to get one more. Anybody has any reaction?
I think it's good. I mean, it is in line with what we discussed it before, right? To try to go for specific market segments.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, so we will engage with this group and we'll get this going.
One question I did have around events was like hymns, and I apologize, I'm using my phone, so I can't see it as well. But something like hymns, were there plans to be there this year or thoughts around that?
Yeah, we do have those events captured in our event tracker. Like you're looking at it right now, but hymns is, I know it's like very, very big healthcare event and it's like RSA in the healthcare forum. We typically did not plan on it because the sponsorship cost was just insane, and we don't have a lot of a leverage like nonprofit leverage like what we do with RSA. So we did not, but definitely something that can be attended, I think, if we feel aligned. But let me just go through this real quick. So in the top 6 events in the green box is what I'm proposing and suggesting as the top core event that we will invest a dollar amount. So, and I put the dollar amount in the column here, that is inclusive of the sponsorship and the, any other engagement, like offsite event that we might do, any type of logistic costs, and everything is included in there. So with so that's looking like a 295 as of now, and we have proposed and approved for the 400K for event to support. So outreach committee has about 100K if we were to do all 6, which is you all went through it just now. You'll have 100K to work with in the new year. And then on the bottom half of the yellow highlighted ones are highly prioritized, but we did not allocate any money towards this. So we will have to leverage the call for papers and attending and just kind of working with the member company's booth or anything like that to leverage and be part of and engage. CCC might not allocate specific dollar towards this, but we might, depending on the opportunity. That's why there is like a buffer amount that's left. But this is what we're looking at. And if you, when you get the agenda, if you click on the link at Outreach Event Tracker, there is tons more of events that you can see that, well, we have gathered over the years that we believe that's important. I do have to move on. What do we have after? Okay, sorry, Jen, I'm giving you a little time. Jen, are you here?
I was just trying to unmute. Yeah, we probably are going to want to do some follow-up, but just to kind of get everybody thinking, one of the things Kate wanted us to try to tackle as we move into next year, particularly in alignment with the messaging guide work that everybody's been doing, is just to take a look at our logo treatments and some just general rebranding refresh. So if you want to go back one of the things that I think everybody has commented on is the original logo really had consortium as kind of the larger font treatment versus confidential computing. So we had the creative team come up with some different logo treatments. So you can see here, there's probably, too many to look at just in one meeting, but it would be great if you all could maybe take a look at these treatments are on a white background, and you can see the ones here in this box have more of a black tone to the logo treatment versus the ones on the right here have more of a blended or gradient with how confidential computing is spelled out. So that's kind of one thing to take a look at. I think the other thing that you all might want to do some thinking about is whether we want to kind of keep the C with the security lock inside, or whether you want to kind of break away from that and do more of a general or generic kind of security icon. We could also drop the icons depending on what you all want to do, but I personally kind of like having a logo with your font treatment. So that's what you'll see here. And then if you go to the next slide, you'll see it in kind of a reverse. So if you wanted to have more of a black tone to your logo, that's how these would look. And then going forward, you can see, so the messaging guide, this is the artwork that we're using for the messaging guide. I do like that very thin, transparent kind of white circle. So we kind of pulled that in. And these examples here on the left would be kind of like, hey, here's what our social cards look like. So that's what you can kind of look at here. We will do some that have white. It's kind of nice because we do so many social posts during the year to kind of have a variety. So we have kind of one social card that kind of speaks to announcements versus blogs versus webinars, things of that nature. So that's kind of how this would look. And then if you want to ping to the next one, mascots, which Kate, we should probably save the next conversation, but it'll kind of get people thinking.
Mike has a hand up for the previous slide, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, like, how do you want to proceed on? I don't think we're going to have time to take on the mascot today, but the other ones. So if you back up one more, please, Jen, or two more. There, back to the white ones. There you go. I would propose that we could eliminate the equal text size of both versions, where the confidential computing and consortium are all equal size. I would propose that those are inferior to the ones where confidential computing is the larger thing. I'm just trying. Okay, so if we had, you know, the black treatment and the gradient treatment, sorry, on this one, the black text with confidential computing or gradient treatment with confidential computing. I guess sorry, I'm trying to corral us to a decision quickly. Changing the C's to a shield. First of all, everything in security is either a shield or a lock. So let's, come on, let's not be that pedestrian. So I would say that the contenders are the first two in the left-hand box, and then the first two in the right-hand box as the leading contenders. It's really a matter.
Two or
sorry.
These two.
The two on the left.
Upper left and middle left, and then upper left and middle left in both of the boxes. Those two, and then those two, I'd say are the larger. And can we throw that to like a survey of the squad and say?
Yeah. I was going to suggest that. And if you want to see something kind of in between, like, hey, we like these four directions, but we're not in love with any of them. We like them, but we're not in love. I can kind of have kind of a second round iteration. Because I agree with you, Mike. I think the C is something very unique to confidential computing versus the shield.
Yeah.
But if you want to see kind of variations off of those four, we can go that direction. I think once we do the logo treatment, then like the rest of the branding starts to make a little more sense.
Okay, great. We'll put that into the poll or voting thing, and then we'll kind of go from there. And we'll cover the rest of the topic in the next call in the new year. Just kind of go to the last slide, the newsletter and the blog review. Oh, the annotation does not go away. So quick ask is, so Sal has drafted this blog post that we need everyone to take a look at it and give any comments or feedback on this blog draft by this Friday. And also we're planning on sending out the last newsletter of the year So if you want to share any kind of a big news related to the confidential computing blog post from your company and things like that, please feel free to send it to me by next Monday, and we'll include that in the newsletter. And I know we went slightly over, but